Should you try Trexis Insurance? They're fairly new to the market. They're kind of blowing up. There's certain states that they're in, but I wanted to go over is should you try them and are they worth your investment as far as insurance? Trexis Insurance was founded in 1997. Currently, they write insurance in 9 different states. So we've got Arkansas, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and Georgia. If you dig a little bit further in some of the states, for example, Texas, even though they say they started in 2004, in 97, they started in certain states like Texas in 2004. So all in all, with a company that's kind of new to the market, the insurance world, that's not really a big concern personally. The question is who's backing them. Are they new to the market, or if they've got like a parent company, for example, Allstate owns Esurance, Farmers owns 21st Century or Foremost. State Farm works with, I want to say, Titan Insurance as far as a backup. So there's all these companies, Progressive Direct, that work separately. They have different versions of themselves. So I did find out that Trexis is owned or operated by Alfa Insurance. So if you've ever heard of Alfa, they're kind of a lower budget, kind of a higher risk type company, in my opinion, from what I know. And maybe that's the next video. Maybe we dig in. I'm not going to put an opinion on them right now. But that's their parent company. They were established in 1946. So there is a little bit of traction there. They're starting off a second brand. I don't really know quite why, because Alfa was really known as being like a tech company. So they were really good with like the online systems and everything like that. It's not when the company starts, but who backs them, which we just mentioned, how much funds they have. So when they have claims, are they going to be able to pay them? And how quickly they handle their claims. Because that's the biggest things. Once you get into these guys that are headbutting each other, they're going head to head, and they're trying to figure the difference. Should I go with Farmers or should I go with Liberty Mutual? I don't know, right? Who's better? If they offer the same product and the prices are similar, the next question is, how well are they going to handle your claim? How quickly? And more importantly, are they going to deny claims more often than another company? Because obviously you don't want to be with that option. So those 3 parts of it, let's dig right into them. So the first part is the company that's backing them. As we mentioned, Alfa Insurance, that's already been, that kind of already was taken care of. They do have, and I'll show you here, I've got my computer pulled up. So they do actually have a backing here. So this is the Trexis Insurance website. This is kind of like the, it's pretty basic. So this is kind of their about themselves. You can kind of see it's just a really short paragraph of who they are. These are some reviews that we're going to go through. Here's kind of the history. So what I found online, this is from Trexis Insurance Corporation. So it does mention in here, this is one of the multiple places that shows that they are tied to Alfa, but this is kind of their financial backings. So why is this important to you is because you want to make sure that they're a company that's going forward, right? So if you look at December of 2016, their total assets was 104,137,259. It went up the next year, which is what you want a company to do, to 108,062,896. And then the problem is the last year of December of 2018, it went down $1 million. So it sounds like they're starting to pay out some claims. They're obviously going to have to do some adjustments on prices here, because whenever you pay out on a claim, you've got to report that. So when that's reported to their financial advisors, they're going to go in and they call them products, right? Their auto liability and auto collision and all that stuff. If you want to know more of that, you can look at my other videos. But the claiming of that, so the loss ratio has to be high enough where they're making a couple cents on every person, maybe 10 cents. Maybe they're lucky and they got $1. They're loving life, right? Because $107 million times 100%, that's a lot, right? So the problem that I'm seeing is they've taken a loss. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're losing money on claims. they could have taken on an entity, or they could have taken on some sort of growth. Maybe they tripled their advertising budget, and maybe that's why they're trending. Actually, I'll show you real quick. The reason this spurred this conversation is I was looking through insurance trends, and look at this. So from just October of 2017, so we're just going to go in the past 12 months, this company has really popped in the market and grown pretty extensively as far as people interested. In the past 5 years, they went from nobody knowing who they were to, in some of these states, they just blew up and people were starting to search them. So I figured I'd cover some information. Okay, so who cares about all this stuff? That's just the technical stuff. Some people like to know the history of the companies, the finances and stuff like that. It's not going to say, it's who cares, right? At the end of the day, are they going to insure me at a good price? Are they going to take care of my claim? And are they going to pay out on that claim if something happens? Are they going to be courteous? So what I did is I did a little bit of research on their star rating. So that's the newest thing. I mean, keep in mind, the insurance world is never positive online. You go to the top company out there, odds are they're going to have a lower review than expected because most people go there to complain. The agency I work at, we send reviews out to every single person, and typically we are like a 4.9 out of 5 stars. That's great, but that's because we focus on that. We literally want to make sure that you are getting the best service, and you're getting everything that you were expecting out of an agency. So that's the cool thing about this company. Is Trexis is agent only from what I can tell. So it could have been a company that we take on into our agency, and now you're going to get that high level of service. So if you do have a problem with the claim, I might pick up the phone for you and be like, hey, what's going on? This is ridiculous. We've got customers that need your help. So you're going to have that extra backing. So if you can get with a really good company, you can go to their website and search it. I'll put a link below. But yeah, you can get some of the good service. The problem is some of these reviews were pretty rough. I'm going to lean to my notes because I actually wrote a whole bunch of stuff about it, but I'm just going to read you what I'm quoting some of these reviews, and the majority of them were pretty low. The largest issue I've read is the communication. So this is from the employees. This is coming from Glassdoor.com. This is where they rate employees rate their experience. People have stayed there, people have left, their income, all that stuff. It seems like communication is the biggest issue with Alfa and with Trexis. There's more reviews on Alfa, obviously, because they're the parent company, but I don't want to be biased and say all the negative because that's not really the point of the video. It's just to kind of give you a good idea so that you can make a decision if they're the company for you. I personally, from what I've read so far, can't recommend them yet. I may do some more research and let you know if I find something different. But based on the reviews, so communication is the biggest issue. Not being able to get a hold of adjusters as often as they'd like. Now, I also wrote a little side note, is you can't always fault the company for that because in my experience, yes, with the agency that I work with, we have really good experience with that. Because if they aren't getting the best service, we get involved and make sure that we help them take care of it. It's not always the best answer that they want, but at least someone's helping them side by side get their claims finished, make sure they get the right money that they deserved. So with this one, it sounds like the agencies that are partnered with this aren't doing as good of a job as they could have. So they're having trouble getting a hold of a lot of adjusters, and going back to the no fault of the company partially is because it's an emergency, right? I just need to get this claim in. I need to get it going. I'm going to go off and do this. And then you come back a couple days later and you're like, why isn't this all done? You told me this. And in reality, you were just so focused on that claim that if you were to go back, I've done this. I actually did this once myself. I ordered a training manual, like a financial book. It was like I thought it was a 3-payment process, and I owned it. And so this was when I was younger. What I did is I ended up having a 4th payment and a 5th payment. And I got mad. I called them up. I was like, this is ridiculous. How could you charge me this much? I never agreed to this, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I'll never do this again. And da, 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 da. You know, I'm angry because they stole my money. Well, they played back the phone call that I was on, and there was a pre-recording that I had to agree to. And in that pre-recording, it flat out states there is 5 payments of $39.99 and da 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 da. And I was like, yes, I agree. I was like, I was so involved in getting that program that I heard what I wanted to hear, which was 3 payments, and I just misunderstood. So that's not to say that's everybody. You might be the person that wrote it down, had it correct. I mean, by all means, not all of these are people's fault. I'm just telling you from my experience, what I've seen with other clients. I've done it myself. So it's something, we're human. It happens. So I don't really fault them as much as that, but there were a lot of claims, or reviews that sort of spoke to that portion. So that's kind of what leads me to believe that it's partially or majority of the company's fault. Maybe just in the adjusters. The other part was that when they did get a hold of adjusters, they were a little bit rude. And so that can also be, I'm going to mention here some of the employees' reviews. That's also could be part of the reviews that we're going to mention in a second, is because unless you have a good workplace, you're going to be frustrated. If you're in a job and you're overworked and underpaid, then 100% you're going to be cranky because you just feel like you're just being abused. With that being said, you got to keep in mind these guys have, from what I would imagine, the growth, I would imagine that their prices are really good. Unless they've added something into those financials, then there's a reason that they're growing so fast. I'm willing to bet in those 9 states that they're really competitive because they're trying to pull in customers. And when you do that, you could have a lot of potential, which we're starting to see. And if you're watching this, Trexis, I think that's how you say it. But if you're watching this, please comment below and let us know, hey, maybe you guys took on a larger marketing budget. Maybe that's the reason for the income drop, or maybe we're looking at the wrong company. I don't know. Just if you've got an opinion, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, so when you're doing that, you got to keep in mind you do get what you pay for the majority of the time. So in this situation, it sounds like the price is lower. They're getting a little bit less service. It looks like some people might be overworked or just frustrated with the lack of communication. And so at the end of the day, the experience for the customer does not sound like it's the way a Liberty Mutual would be, or a Citizens, or one of those clients would typically be, because they're usually heart focused on customer reviews and customer feedback. So I'm just going to quote straight from the employees to kind of give you, to tie these together so you can see where I think the loss is with the frustrated adjusters, or the comments of adjusters being rude, things like that. So for an employee aspect, according to Glassdoor.com, there's a lot of room for improvement. So here's the quote: management structure is insufficient. So it sounds like the steps down are not getting told correctly, or at least there's just an uneven. And I didn't put the quote in here, but that person went on to mention that they felt like it was a mom and pop place, even though it was a large, huge company. So it was kind of like, hey, I want you to do this today. No, I want you to do that today. So that's kind of that kind of gives off that vibe as well. So that kind of solidifies that as much as I can imagine. The next comment was toxic work culture and very little praise with lots of criticism. And then that went on to say there was always more workload, so to speak. So if you want to look into these a little bit more, I'm not trying to get a negative opinion on them, but that just seems to be all I can see, which is typically what the internet does with insurance. I'm going to show you right here, just so you have an idea of what I'm looking at. This one's Alfa, so I don't want to hold any of this against them, but this is the parent company, 1.2 stars out of 5, which is horrible, 151 reviews. This is from Consumer Affairs. That is just ridiculous. So that's that. This is the Better Business Bureau. Now this is actually the company, so here's just some complaints that they're going on, and that's really where most people go, is the BBB, to complain. And it sounds like they're responding in a lot of these things, so that's positive. You know, they're actually taking the time to say, hey, we apologize, or hey, here's how we fixed it, and here's how we had miscommunication. So that's a really good thing. I love it when companies do that. That's the financials. Here's the Glassdoor. So this is the Trexis Insurance link. You can kind of see up here if anyone wants to review it. I'll put that in there. But like a threat analysis, poor leadership, no vision, business people are horrible. That's kind of abrupt, but chaos becomes part of life. So none of these reviews were good at all. that might be kind of a thing to focus on as well when somebody starts looking up your company. 1.5 out of 5 stars for employees is never a good thing. Last complaint that I noticed, which is one complaint that I saw, is they have no app. So do you have to have an app? No, that won't make you successful. I like the fact that you have an app. I noticed on their website there is a login spot for customers and there's a spot to file a claim. So that's a really good thing. I think you guys are doing great there with that. You don't have to have an app. I do prefer to have an app so I can access things right away. I can see my bill, download things, look at my ID cards, things like that. But yes, I could just as well go to the internet, which nobody does anymore. They want that app, just boom, it's there, right? So that might be a thing to work on, assuming that you and Alfa don't somehow combine with each other to create something like that. All in all, if you're in one of those 9 states, if you feel like this is going to be the route to go, if it's just the price, go for it. Try it. I mean, it's insurance, right? The biggest thing that you're going to lose out on is if you don't read the paperwork. You got to make sure you're covered correctly. You got to make sure you have the right limits. You have to make sure you can ask them, what's your average time? What's the average turnaround for this company? If I file a claim today, is it going to be 6 weeks before it's paid? Or is it going to be 3 weeks or 2 weeks? How often am I going to get experience? Maybe call their customer service line and ask them a couple questions. That might be worth your time to do a little more digging. I'm not saying do that with all companies, because your Liberty Mutuals and your Citizens and your higher end companies, those guys, they've already established themselves. They have the reviews that are really well built on that. So I'm not going to call and ask those questions because I already know that's their typical clientele. They want quick service. It sounds like that might be a spot where they're cutting some of the costs, where they're able to pay a little bit less. And I don't know their income or their pay, but it sounds like they're paying a little bit less to an employee, maybe putting a little more workload on them, so it's a little bit easier. I mean, you're growing a company. That's what you do when you grow a company, and who knows, eventually it will become the next Farmers Insurance or Allstate Insurance or State Farm Insurance, where now you can kind of branch off and you can afford to lose a little bit more, pay the guy a little extra money, take some of the workload off, give it to someone else. That's just part of growing. So I hope you guys like this. If you want to see more of this, maybe leave a comment below if you have questions. If you have other companies you want me to review or look at, I'd be happy to. I'm going to try to create some more videos for you, and I'll put some links below. If you're in any of these states, the company I'm working for is actually starting to branch off into all of the U.S. So if you guys are interested in getting those, I don't have any links yet, but they're going to be coming out soon. When they do, I'm going to put those links below. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.